geography, rife with conversations about pipeline expansion, oil and gas. It also happens to be where a significant portion of the Highway of Tears is located. So that's where a very, very large number of missing and murdered Aboriginal women and their families negotiate spaces of contemporary colonial violence. So in response to all of this, I wrote another book of poetry. So I'm a poet and a creative writer in part by trade. Skeena is a 90-plus single long poem. It's meant in form and format to sort of mirror the Skeena River watershed. So it's big and expansive. I'm not going to read all of it. I asked him the other day if he's ever read Fence from cover to cover, and he said yes. And I was like, I couldn't. It's like 96 pages. People would slit their wrists and force them to listen to all of that. But I will take you from the beginning to the end of the Skeena River in what should be about the next 10 minutes. A couple of things to know. Skeena is an assemblage long poem, so you'll hear different voices, you'll hear different historical archives, you'll hear different geographies. But when you hear I or we, you're hearing in part the voice of the river. So just bear that in mind as I move through the reading. Skeena Crossing. What is this crossing? In the photo, just in front of the train with the crane at the edge of the drop off from track into river stands a young man. Truss from left, truss from right, a bridge built, middle word built, inward bridge, water, bridge tracks on the opposite shores of a river railway atop concrete stone pillars, bridge stretching toward a meeting of itself in the center of the Skeena, where currents are strongest. I am the river. I have touched bends of sandbars set to disappear, tips of drifted down pine needles, the husk of a hair from a rutting bull moose, carcasses of deer, red, long summer days, huckleberry full, and still you do not believe I am small. You refuse to believe, insist I can take anything, forgetting that single solitary split second of split water, of splitting me. You, young man, are still finishing the job. By the time I reach you, Wet'suwet'en, I've nearly forgotten the Copan Valley, separating from Stikine, from Nass, from our headwaters, where the human names sound like spitting on rock, on dirt, Spatsizi, Edziza, Datalui. I gather tributaries into watersheds, Duty, Mosk, Sistine, Babine, the Kispioks under shadows of Mount Weber. Then you, Wet'suwet'en, south of Kispioks. We're passing canneries of the past. North Pacific Canning Company, Anglo-British Columbia Packing Company, women packed side by side, slicing salmon, slipping blood, boots sloshing in sleet, in rain, and salmon guts, hands freezing, shoving flanks of salted sockeye into tins, seals barking, begging for the sluice dripping from Port Edward's slippery boardwalks. 100 years later, Port Ed, all rotting wharves, piers piercing me, pylons, barnacles, blue, black mussels, ghost nets, and rusting machines. We at the Pacific, taste of salt, brine, flung open, burn of chuck, tidal line stained rocks, wave eaten. Riparian, I owe you above all else. But still, riparian, I flood Again, I flood blueberry, flood lupins, flood deep purple, white slide, alder fern, sandy spore spots, underside of leaves, rosebuds going to rose hips, spikes and spicy seeds, Indian paintbrush, Indian hellebore, fields of daisies, fireweed, yarrow, salmonberry, salal, elderberry, cow parsnip, dandelion, stinging nettles, buttercups, and clover and thistles. Yes, I do, riparian. Gravel roads, horse paddocks running muck, chickens loose, women clucking, limp-armed, log cabins yarded from dryness, hand-packed, chinking, broken-down doors, drowned flower dresses. Moose. Early spring overflow low down with salt near Pacific. I'm Devil's Club just opening memories of aspen leaves, alder leaf rot from last fall, beaver fat, brown and full. I am going strong, all slick in the bank. I hug stumps, hurl them sideways, huge, and I love my big spring self when you tumble into me. I suck back, gasp, schluck, stuck like a birth spat wet into the world. You kick, bray, moose, screeching, head back, eyes lull, slick snot from fear, muzzle down to dewlap drenched, ribs heaving. I'm going strong, not even you strong enough to climb out of me. You're shitting streams now, not pellets, and this is death. Up close, a clack, 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 clucking your calf running downriver, your snapped leg 1, your snapped leg 2, 4, bash, bash, bash against a root, and how hale your bones, how fragile in winter, your still wintry fur, downy underneath, your willow tip breath gone. I'm in your lungs, and I'm going strong. I end with a slightly more upbeat note. This is to Allie. In the summer of 2009, this incredibly lovely woman swam the entire length of the Skeena River to draw attention to its dwindling salmon stocks and the potential devastation of the Enbridge pipeline and other resource extractions going through it. This is a collage. It's just called Allie. Allie. Stroke, current, current, stroke, current, current, stroke, muscle, thin film of flesh. You stroke, current, me, stroke, current, me, stroke, ripple, run my river, rapids parted. A backstroke, arresting, turning sideways, then face downward, front crawl, stroke, muscle, stroke, current. You're a dollop, a moving droplet, the texture of freshwater mollusks stripped of shell, jelly soft, silvery, slippery sand in your folds, hair fanning through me, your skin membrane, a watery system, veins like tributaries, thin splinters and blue sparks. I brush up against the estuary of your heart, aortas draining into salty rush, oxygen uptake, breathing from the side of your mouth, red blood cells like salmon roe, riparian ribs. Swim me, swim me, swim me, your body seals slick, you take me in your mouth, exhale, stroke, inhale, above my surface, turn, stroke, muscle, water, turn, stroke. From letters written to Allie by school-aged children with whom she spoke about swimming the river. Dear Allie, dear Allie, dear Allie, thank you. Dear Allie, thank you, thank you. You are so brave. You're a great swimmer. Thank you. Thank you for helping our fish. I love to eat boiled salmon. You must be so happy because you got to see so many fish. I love fishing and eating, and your last name is the same as mine. Thank you. You are so brave to have swum the Skeena. Thank you, dear Allie. Thank you.
say a few words about this. This is also a book-length sequence. It's also about a place, and it's about the island of Svalbard in the high Arctic. Also a site of resource extraction, maybe soon oil, but in the past whales. And that features in here. There are a number of different voices, so again, this is a kind of, I think the word is tessellated, which is a word like tessellated voices, my own, the voice of two writers of journals, one, maybe I should read this. One, Leonie Dornay, who was the first woman to go to Svalbard in 1838, and I found her journals loosely translated and made them into poems, and Robert Fotherby, who was a British whaler and explorer in 1613 and 1614 when he went to Svalbard. So I'm not going to tell you which voices are which. The other thing is, as this goes, I have sort of props. Yeah? A number appears in the bottom corner, and that is, these have just got numbers on. I'm not going to read the numbers as I go, so you will see them. So I'm going to press this button over here as I go. Sorry? No, it's okay. We stand semicircled, staring at rust-red metal poles spaced in regular intervals along an Arctic beach. Hip height, unconnected, separating us from the nothing in particular beyond. Strewn rocks, scattered haphazard. Grey, red, black boulders in a shallow rise, 80 degrees north, like Franz Joseph Land, Nineveh, protecting what from us, or us from. We arrived at the northernmost airport with year-round scheduled flights, strolled the northernmost settlement with over 1,000 souls, home of the northernmost blues festival, passed the northernmost church, took cash from the northernmost ATM, sent postcards from the northernmost post office, ate from the northernmost kebab van run by an asylum seeker from Iran. In rolling seas, 80 degrees north, we held the northernmost disco on the Norderlicht, dancing to the Talking Heads. Now the northernmost fence. How did I get here? 2 flights touched down in Tromsø. A red boat, 4 cabin fell over and over. Seasick, travel worn, frayed at the edges, almost not moving. 80 degrees north, no land nor stars. I travelled to the ends of the Two weeks out of range, no signal, iPhones off, clad in neoprene, merino wool, high performance fleece, breathable shells. We roll off zodiacs like marines, dive bombed by a skewer, alert to our trespasses. Our guide stands guard with his banger, flares and rifle, keeping polar bears at bay. Red rock backdrop to yellow sweep of sand, the moss brilliant green, fragile, off limits, an eroded path to glacier blue. A cabin stands empty, home for 2 guards in high season, keeping tourists off tombs. Driftwood, whale bones, walrus teeth, unicorn horns, rather of some sea creature than any land beast. These things the sea casts forth upon the barrens. William Behrens called this Tusk Bay, Robert Fotherby, claiming the fjord for England, called it Magdalen Sound, and this spot, Trinity Harbour. The Dutch came with another name, Magdalenensond, and then Maria Magdalenesond, and now the fjord is Norwegian, it's Magdalenen Fjord. And this spot, Gravneset, which means grave site. The lowest fence is the easiest to get across. Love your neighbour, but keep your fence. Good fences make good neighbours. Sitting on the fence. Silence is a fence around wisdom. When you see a turtle on a fence post, you know you had some help. Don't tell your secret, not even to a fence. A fence between makes love more keen. A garden without a fence is like a dog without a tail. The only fence against the world is a thorough knowledge of it. Our civilization is essentially one of property, of fences. From the Middle English, fence, from the Old French défense, from the Latin defender, to protect or defend, as in defense. In the 14th century, fence meant the act of defending. In the 15th century, fence became a thing, a barrier or enclosure, this fence. By the 17th century, fence meant to use a sword in combat or a dealer in stolen goods. The Norwegian for fence is gjerd, meaning farm, estate, land, courtyard. From the Old Norse gardra, from the Proto-Germanic gard as, meaning to enclose, as in yard or garden, related to the Old Saxon gard, yard, garden, court, region, land, dwelling. Strike near the swimming thing low under the water to pierce into his entrails. When wounded, he could wrest the lance from the striker's hand. Sometimes two men are needed to pluck it out, but one did thrust it in. He will frisk and strike with his tail very forcibly, sometimes hitting the shallop, splitting her asunder, sometimes maiming or killing men. Sitting quietly